Hi, I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avistec Communications and host of StrategyCast. Join me and my guests, innovators, disruptors, and visionaries as we explore bold and brave marketing strategies that help you transform, scale, and grow your brand. Today's episode is packed with insights for every marketer looking to get ahead. Joining us is Nicole Leffer, a veteran in marketing and e-commerce turned an AI enthusiast. Nicole pioneered new marketing strategies at her e-commerce chocolate ingredients company, and now she coaches teams on harnessing AI for marketing success. Want to know how AI can streamline operations, enhance productivity, and dramatically boost your competitive edge? Then tune in as Nicole shares her top tips for integrating AI into your daily workflows and explains how it can lead to new job opportunities in marketing. Get ready to unlock the potential of AI in your business right here on StrategyCast. And don't forget to check out the most recent issue of the StrategyCast newsletter on StrategyCast.com. Just like this episode, it's full of inspiration and a ton of ideas that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Welcome to StrategyCast. I am so excited to have Nicole Leffer join the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I tell you, I don't mean to embarrass you,
Uh-oh.
but you are quite a phenom when it comes to AI and all things AI. And you've got an incredible course that you're teaching right now to people about how to use it. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show and how people can sign up for that. But what we're really going to dive in today is how marketers can really leverage the AI technology and don't look at it as a single use, look at it through a single use lens and really adopting many of the different tools on how they can enhance already what they're doing. Before we get there, tell us a little bit more about your professional journey and really what led you to this incredible interest in AI.
Yeah. So I have a background that is a bit not traditional. When I was in college, I started a e-commerce chocolate ingredients company, and I did that.
Really sounds good.
Yeah, it was a very tasty and high calorie career. But I did that and, it was the early days of e-commerce. So e-commerce was not in, the early mid 2000s, what it is today. And it was a lot of navigating, really building almost a tech company, even though we were selling chocolate because, you didn't have Shopify or anything back when we started. And so I did that for 15 years. I was the head of marketing and e-commerce for the business and grew this business. And it was fantastic. But we separate ways from that in 2020, the beginning of 2020, and ended up moving did a little bit of marketing consulting. And ironically decided I don't want to do this. I'm not a consultant. Went in-house at a SaaS company, a B2B SaaS company. And ended up bringing on AI tools for myself and my entire team. And this was in 2021. And it was not something anybody had heard of. I kind of stumbled into them and was like, oh, this is cool. We have to use it. I started using them every day. My entire team started using them every day. And it really changed how I marketed. I'd been a marketer for a lot of years at that point, and it just made everything so much easier, faster, and better. And so got really excited about it. About a year later, I ended up going separate ways from that company and decided to dive very deeply into learning more of the AI tech that I hadn't learned yet. And then ChatGPT came out. And because I was so deep into learning this technology, I knew about it in the first couple of days and got on there very quickly. And meanwhile, I'm sharing all of this with CMOs and a chief marketing officer community I'm in. And it had been crickets until suddenly ChatGPT was in the news.
Wow.
And they started going, Nicole, would you teach my team what you know because you know stuff about this. That was early last year. And so for the last year and change, I have been training marketing teams at companies from all sizes, Series A startups through public household names that we've all heard of, training their marketing teams how to use AI. And it has been a whirlwind and amazing.
I think it's really cool. And it's so important and so needed right now. What is the number one question you get in those trainings?
I think that, it has shifted over time, but now I think the biggest question is like, how do I do this? Like they really want to know. Before they wanted to know, what are we even talking about? Because it was so new, but now people have heard of it and they're like, I can't get it to work. How do I make it work like everybody else says it does?
So is there, we recently talked about Sam Altman's quote on the show, and his basically his quote stated that he believes that 90% of strategists, creatives, and marketers, agencies will go out of business overnight because of the generative ability for AI to take over a lot of what they do day in and day out.
Yeah.
What is your gut reaction to that?
I was surprised everybody was surprised. Yeah. Like, honestly, like that quote came out and everybody went crazy. And I was like, did y'all not know that?
Yeah.
Like that was, and I mean, I don't think he said overnight. I think he said eventually, but like,
it might have been 5 years.
I don't think it was like today. So before anybody goes into panic that I'm saying like overnight, I think we've got like a few minutes. Mostly because it's taking companies time to adopt, not because the technology couldn't do that. I mean, I think there's always going to be the people that are necessary to be involved and in the loop, or at least as far as I can see for the foreseeable future. But I was really shocked how shocked people were because I am using this technology all day, every day. I'm working with marketing teams to use it. And it's not just writing blog posts, right? Like I use it for strategy. I have a CMO that funded a multi-million-dollar campaign that she wrote with ChatGPT. Like it really can do so much already. And we're just at the very infant baby stages of this technology. So that's like, oh yeah, that's of course coming.
Yeah. And we at Avocet have had an AI council for 18 months, and we're really at the forefront of this tool and how it can enhance everything that we're doing day in and day out, the tool AI.
But I do want to, can I say one thing though? I don't want people to be scared of that because it's also a huge opportunity for those that are learning it now.
I agree.
Because you can get in and you can position yourself as like that one that controls the AI. And so that's what I love doing is teaching people how to use it so that they can be the ones that do have the job security, that do have the longevity to be able to like really thrive in this new world. So instead of looking at it with fear, look at it as opportunity.
Well, and our AI manager, we've got a position, an AI manager position in the agency. And every week we have a 90-minute meeting to determine bottlenecks in the agency or things that are taking more time than they should. And then how can we develop an AI process with 1, 2, or 3 more tools to help us automate that more? And that is where I think efficiencies can be really built into what we're doing day in and day out to still utilize the wisdom and the intellect that we have here, but to be able to provide more to our clients and meet deadlines more regularly.
Yeah. And I love that you already have that position. I have been telling CMOs like for several months now, that is the position, like, hey, head of AI for marketing is really the position every team is going to have because, and it's not going to be that long because you have to have that person who understands both the technology and your own workflows, your own needs to marry those two things. And while everyone needs the skills, you're also going to need that person who can really take that on. So I love that you're already doing that. You're really ahead of the curve.
Well, I tell you, it's important to be, this company, Avocet, we've been in business 43 years. And we have to continue to stand the test of time. We've been through many, many different recessions. We've been through COVID. We've been through, the invent of the web and all the technology since then from a digital standpoint and the tools that have changed along the way. And that's why we stand the test of time is because we adopt. what is happening in the market. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest advice comments that I have for everyone listening today is you must adopt AI, period. You can't look at it and say, we're not going to.
And it's so funny you bring that up, because you brought up something that I'm really seeing a lot when I'm working with marketers, is those who have been through a lot tend to adopt a lot faster and easier. And a lot of it is just age, right? Like people think, oh, young people adopt sooner and faster with technology. I'm actually seeing with AI, it's anybody who lives through the birth of the internet, email, e-commerce, all of these things. We all watched growing up as the adults who refused to adopt this stuff, lost jobs, had economic hardship. And all of us are like, not doing that. I'm learning this first. So I'm seeing like late 30s up through like even like, baby boomers are the ones adopting this a lot quicker than the Gen Zers who have had a smartphone in their hand their entire life and never had to adopt new technology before. And the companies usually, you're ahead of being a more established company. So on top of it, I love that you're doing that.
Well, and, for the record, I feel like I know this much. Which is why you're here today.
We all feel that way because it's so much.
I know. So I want to go back to something that you said earlier, and navigating the use of AI and how to use it operationally or through marketing is something a lot of different people in the C-suite are discussing. Just at the beginning of April 10th, this month, Retail Dive wrote a story about Dove pledging to not use AI models in lieu of real women in its advertising. I personally love that. I think one thing that is really concerning and alarming about AI is authenticity. What do you have to say about that?
I think it's a great move by a company like Dove that it's like that actually matters. You can't claim your product does something for a physical human and then show fake computer generated models. So I applaud Dove for not using AI generated human faces or people in their marketing. I think that's a great move. I'm a believer, like, I think it depends on your brand. I'm not saying never use any kind of AI generated people, but I do think it is important to be transparent about that in general. And I think there's a difference between a stock photo that's not actually representative of anything your company does, and it's just like showing people working or whatever, and having an AI generated image to be representative versus like implying somebody is using your product. Right. Or, there is a huge difference. So I think you have to really use your critical thinking and logic of, am I misrepresenting my company, my brand, my product by using an AI generated image for this, and really weigh that out. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think the technology is so cool that it can do that. But at the same time, it's absolutely terrifying. Like the idea of the deep fakes, both images and videos, I think is one of the very scary elements of AI that we all need to be more literate about.
I agree. And it's happening left and right. As a matter of fact, Avocet is developing a program for crisis communications around the use of AI and the deep fakes and really the preparedness that brands need to have out there to be able to tackle that. More to come on that later. But I want to bring up a use case real quick on how we used Dolly internally. So I'm not going to talk about the client and the specific image, but we needed to create an illustration. This client, our marketing approach is very illustrative and animated in everything that we do. And we had to bring two things to the table that do not exist out there anywhere. There's not an image for it. There's not an illustration out there. It was for a promotion, bringing two things to the table. We went to Dolly and said, could you please develop this kind of an image that ties this element to this element and includes a background of A, B, C, and D? It gave us 10 different, different ideas. We finally found something that was on brand, on tone. We didn't use it, but we gave it to our illustrator to actually illustrate to match the style of everything that we're doing for the brand. And it saved, from the creative department standpoint, probably a full day's work just in ideating what it should be.
It's so great for that. Like the image generators, even if you're not using the AI image generation, like that's the actual AI image, it is such a great use to help non-designers and non-graphics people communicate what they want. And there's also the ability now within ChatGPT, if you're using DALL-E, you can click on it, make it bigger, and then you can color over part of it and just change one part of the image. Or I've always been doing that with Photoshop before. Like I would make the AI generated image, bring it into Photoshop. Now you can do it right in ChatGPT with the generative. And so you can really tweak it. And even if it doesn't actually look good, you can still convey your vision. Because if you're like, make a scene of a sky or whatever, and you're like, I would want a hot air balloon here, you could just color over that scene, say, put a hot air balloon here. Even if the hot air balloon doesn't look good, it doesn't matter because it's just your concept that you're trying to communicate to a designer of exactly what you're wanting for it to be. You could say, put this text here, even if it completely misspells it, because the AI does that sometimes, every time.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, every time.
I don't think English. It's not the language out there.
And you know what? It's so much better than it was at this time last year. Because at this time last year, it was like Egyptian hieroglyphics, ancient Greek, and nothing that resembled letters. At least now it's just completely misspelled words.
Well, yeah, there is a word here and there for sure.
You can kind of make out it's English now.
So something that you said at the onset of the show in your introduction was that you referenced AI making everything easier, faster, and better.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to dive into, we're talking about a lot of marketing tools and a lot of, outputs. Let's talk about how marketers and even sales teams, quite frankly, because we're using this for a lot of sales development right now as well, how they can utilize an AI as a part of their day-to-day workflow. I gave an example earlier of how our AI manager got us all together and was going through workflows in the agency, and then we're reverse engineering some new workflows on how those can become more efficient with AI. What is the most common workflow, like, just that is top of mind for people right now regarding how could AI fix this?
Yeah. Okay. So first I want to start with, I will answer that, I promise, but I want to start with, for your audience, I highly recommend you get into a habit with AI before you start any task. You say to yourself, like, how can I use AI to help me with this? And you start just getting in this habit of not just doing it the old way and start thinking about how you can use AI. So do not limit yourself to individual specific use cases.
Good.
That said, I will say the thing I see more than anything is repurposing related use cases. So this is taking something that already exists and spinning it into lots of new things.
Right.
And so this could be, you have an ebook or a white paper or a report, you give it to the AI and you have it create you various blog posts based on it. Now, it doesn't need to be like summary blog posts. It can be just using that content as input of facts and information and ideas to spin out lots of other types of content. If you have a 75-page report you've created, that could be, the input for tons of different blog posts on different topics, for example. So
I love that.
So doing it with transcripts of webinars, transcripts of podcasts, you could be creating your blog posts, your email campaigns, you could be creating your LinkedIn posts. That's the stuff I see more than any other, but that continues to expand out when you really think about it, because once you know how to do that, you can start to understand, well, maybe I don't have a webinar transcript, but I have my phone and my voice, and I could just talk to my phone and tell it the ideas that I want to go into the content.
Right.
And now that voice memo that got transcribed is the thing that's getting repurposed. It's not polished content. So just this concept of like repurposing an input into something new is, I think, the number one thing that's a time saver for people.
I do too. And I'm going to give you a couple examples on how we're doing that. So we've had this program in the agency. It's kind of a hub and a spoke program when it comes to slicing and dicing content. The hub is, is it that ebook? is it this podcast? And then how you slice and dice that out between all the different social media channels into shorter, longer blogs, emails, whatever it might be, is really the approach. When we were doing this manually, it would take us between 6 and 7 hours to accomplish that task.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're using AI and a few different AI tools specifically on this podcast, it takes us half the amount of time. And sometimes even more. It could take a third of the amount of time. So what that's doing is opening up capacity for more client work or for, increasing the number of podcasts that we put out. Whatever that might be is how we as marketers, and quite frankly, everyone in the C-suite needs to be approaching AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's mind-blowing how much time it could save you. So, like, another example of this, I when I released my course at the beginning of April, when I recorded it, it's almost 7 hours of content, of video lessons, right?
Right.
And so I was like, I wanna be able to give everybody course notes, and I also wanted to give them the opportunity to review the course, like, those notes, but, like, listening, because people are walking or driving, so I wanted them to have MP3s. I was not about to sit there and take like really complicated course notes and all of this. What I did is every single time I finished recording a lesson, I recorded it, edited it in Descript. Once it was done being edited, I saved it to a Dropbox file that triggered a Zapier automation. And that Zapier automation transcribed it, turned it into course notes, turned it into a lesson description, all of the learning objectives, wrote and then turned the course notes it had written into an AI voiceover, put it all in a Google Drive. It even formatted like the lesson description and learning objectives in HTML for me. And so it could just be pasted into my course platform. And so now I had a way more robust course. And it was literally like from the point of saving my video that was recorded, my lesson, within 3 minutes, I had in my Google Drive all the assets that went with it. And I thought, you're going to have to spend a lot of time editing and proofing that. And of course, I had human eyes on it. It was almost perfect almost every single time. Like, I was like, this is so much better. I would never have created something this good.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about it saved me 5 hours. I'm talking about it saved me like months. I never would have put out the course if I didn't have the AI helping me doing this by myself.
Well, and the key point there is that it started with your intellect, though. It started with your voice, and it had to, in order for you to develop something that is truly authentic and custom.
Exactly.
Versus a lot of approaches that are out there right now that are anything but that.
And that's why I love the like repurposing use case
Right.
for, whatever it is, because it is starting with your ideas. It's
Yeah.
your podcast, your webinar, your ebook, whatever it is, or even just your voice memo of your ideas. But I think the biggest mistake I see people making with AI when they're unhappy with the results is they are expecting the AI to think for them. And come up with unique ideas and creative stuff to put out into the world. And when you do that, if you just like write a blog post on XYZ topic or a LinkedIn post on XYZ topic, you're just going to recycle the internet. Right. You're going to get the AI learned on it. It's going to give you back what it learned versus you give it, here's a bullet pointed list of my ideas, turn this into something, and suddenly you'll have good content with it. So you are the magic ingredient that most people are trying to leave out when they work with AI.
Yeah, there's a really cool tool out there right now. I'm going to pull it up and see if you know about this. You brought up Google, which is what prompted me to think about this. So it's called chathub.gg. And a girlfriend of mine mentioned this to me recently. And what ChatHub does is it brings together GPT, Gemini, Cloud, Bing, Perplexity, Llama, and Mixtral. Mm-hmm. And you can ask a question and it gives you the answers from each of those different tools. And so Google, I think, is really interesting right now. We talked about this in our pre-show on, and by the way, we're going to get back to some operational use cases in just a minute. We're off on a tangent, but we're going to stay here.
Oh, good.
I'm using chat as, for recipes. I'm going to Europe in July with my daughters. and we're figuring out exactly what we're going to do day in and day out based on the prompts. To even do that in Google is going to take
Yeah.
it's just not as accurate. But this tool takes that into consideration as well. Like, you can use it. Let's say we're developing some persona information on how to move people through the 3 phases of the funnel.
Uh-huh.
You can take this Chat Hub tool, ask it a technical question about a specific question, about a specific product, see how it's answered in each one of these things to gain the insight of the mindset of the buyer as they're moving through the funnel. It's a great way to even gain insight on SEO in this situation and how it's affecting the search query.
Yeah. I don't know that one specifically. There's several tools that are being built to do that kind of thing. So I would just say for your users who may not be as AI savvy as you are, or your listeners, I just want you to make sure you understand if you're using tools like that. And I don't know that one specifically, so I have no idea the security on it. Make sure you understand their data security and know also the data security of every single tool it's running through.
Right.
So you need to know, am I training an AI on what I'm putting in? And I'm not saying don't use it if it might be, but you're going to use it very differently if the AI could be learning from what you put into it versus if it is completely secure.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, each of them has very different things, but you want to understand how they're using your data, because you could do certain things and it's not going to matter at all. Like, there's certain things I'll put in an AI tool and I don't care. And then other things, anything remotely proprietary or private, you need to be very careful about what tool you do or do not put it into. So just if you're not super familiar with it, be aware of checking into that.
So 2 questions there. So what tools are you using that you feel are very secure? And back to the early chat days, we weren't including brand names or anything like that in our queries because of that security concern.
Yeah. So personally, I am comfortable for myself with a team ChatGPT account for this. Now, everyone is going to be different, right? Like a Fortune 500, Fortune 50 company, they're going to have a very different security threshold than I do. Depending on the type of data that you are handling, it's going to be different. But for me personally, I am good with a team ChatGPT account because they do not train on the data.
Yeah.
So it's just any kind of normal. If I would put it in another tool with basic security, I'm comfortable storing it or, putting it into that account myself. I'm also comfortable with using the OpenAI API through the API because again, it does not train on the data. So, and then I know a lot of companies, like, they maybe wouldn't be comfortable at the team level, but they are comfortable at the enterprise level with ChatGPT because it has extra layers of security. So a lot of that's going to depend on your own company. I know other companies that will not use anything but Microsoft Azure.
Yep.
So, which you can run OpenAI models through Microsoft Azure, but everybody has a different threshold, and I am definitely not a security advisor. For myself, as a small business, knowing that I am telling every one of my clients, like, anything that you give me is going into this. We've got the disclaimer, you understand that. I am comfortable with a Teams account. And then I also do have a personal account that I use because sometimes I do want to actually have the AI be learning from me. It's actually intentional that I want it learning from me. So when I want it to learn from me, I'll use my personal account.
Yeah, I think that's great. I want to ask you about Perplexity. I was in a roundtable, and there were probably 120 people, marketers, in the Zoom meeting, and hands down, the bulk of these individuals agreed that Perplexity was far better writing tool than chat.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would think of Perplexity as a tool that is used for research. I wouldn't think of it as a writing tool myself. No, I would venture to guess, like, you got a lot of nuances because a lot of people say ChatGPT and they mean free ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I say ChatGPT and, like,
we're on,
like, so far from my mind.
Yeah.
That's like antiquated technology. So when I talk about ChatGPT, I'm talking about a paid ChatGPT account at the Plus, Teams, or Enterprise level. And so to me, like there's no way, unless they're using maybe paid Perplexity with either Claude 3 or GPT-4 that they're connecting to, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, because I haven't experimented that much with that as a writing tool. I think of it as a research tool.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that a lot of people, when they say, anytime somebody says XYZ is better than ChatGPT, the first thing I say is, are you using free ChatGPT?
Yeah.
And then the second thing I say is, tell me how you're prompting, because those two things are going to completely change what you get out of it. And I will say very few people are actually using the paid account when I actually ask. And very, very few people have any idea how to communicate with it. So take who you get your AI like tool, like this is better than this from, with a grain of salt, because like they probably don't know.
Yeah. The focus right now on AI usage is marketing.
Yeah.
How are other industries, engineering, it's going to be able to tell you what size bridge you need over that highway pretty soon if it's not already. How are you seeing other industries utilizing AI as a part of their workflow?
I mean, engineers are using it a ton. Like, I mean, like for coding, that kind of stuff. So like that is definitely a huge use. I don't know about like people building bridges because that's so far from my level of expertise. But I'm definitely seeing a lot of use in like sales, customer success, for any form of communications, a ton of that. For writing the communications, strategizing the communications, anything with that sphere, lots of it. And then I'm also seeing like a lot of product teams are using it because again, there's a lot of communicating, but even like I work heavily in like the SaaS space and the tech space. So I see a lot of product teams that will do things like you're taking a screenshot of your dashboard, putting it into a paid ChatGPT account and getting feedback to make the user interface more, like more logical, more useful without having to go through like all the focus groups and testing before you get to that first iteration. So there's just so much that anything you could do with marketing, you could do with product too, pretty much. And so there is a ton that is being done on those kind of teams. And then executives, I mean, I think executives are missing the boat completely if they're not leveraging this in like everything that they do.
I agree. Let's talk outcomes. That's what executives care about. Where are you seeing those discussions taking place? How are they taking place? And what are the key points that teams should be focusing on when they're validating the use of AI internally and then externally, perhaps, in marketing specifically for their clients?
Yeah. So I would be looking at a few things. One is you've got to compare doing it with AI to not doing it with AI. So obviously time is the big one that people are talking about. You want to measure like, what is the time difference? Because time is money for like all of us. And our time costs a lot. Even if you're a salaried employee in-house somewhere, your time is really valuable. And so being able to compare the time savings and cost savings in that way is huge. But beyond that, also like measuring things like what is the conversion rate if I use AI versus if I don't? Like, does it affect it? Does it go up or down? And when I say use AI, you're still in the loop. Remember, I'm like meaning AI assisted, not AI completed. But what is the conversion rate? What is the engagement rate? All of the things that you measure always in marketing. Find out what the difference is if it's AI versus not AI. It's interesting. When I post on LinkedIn, on the very rare occasion that I write it myself, my engagement plummets. It is useless. I like need to train myself. I'm a writer. I'm a marketer. Like I love writing. I worked at magazines before, when I was in college and like big name national magazines. I am good at that. My engagement, myself, when I write it myself, just goes down. That was embarrassing. But
is it the SEO optimization within the content?
I don't think so.
Is it the style?
It's the actual like written content that it's just better. Like it writes it. No, I'm a part of it. I'm engaged with it, but it's doing a better job of making the ideas that I am giving to it much more engaging. And then I'm doing the editing and I'm like taking my intuition and my own understanding to improve it. But it's already written a version that's going to resonate with people better than my version.
And that's the key. your idea that started it.
Oh, yeah. It's all my ideas. When I'm saying the AI wrote it, it's not, all of my LinkedIn posts, 100% of them are my thinking.
Right.
They're just AI's writing that I then edit. So the way I do it is I record a voice memo in ChatGPT. I have a GPT that I've built in ChatGPT that connects to Zapier. So I use the ChatGPT app. I talk to it and just voice dump what the concept of the LinkedIn post is, all of the ideas I want included. Submit it because it transcribes it. I submit it. That sends it to a Zapier automation that writes the first draft, edits it, checks to make sure all my ideas are included, checks to make sure that none of the AIs, it didn't make anything up, recopy edits it, removes all signs of AI generated writing, and then sends it to my email. And then that's what I copy and paste into LinkedIn, do my own run. And usually I'll do maybe I'll just copy after I've voice recorded it. Maybe I'll send it a couple of times. I'll just copy the text and send it. So now I have a couple of drafts to choose from.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It takes about, 3 minutes to record, 2 minutes to get it into my email, 5 minutes to edit. And it's it's mind blowing how much better it is.
Yeah.
And the engagement is through the roof when I do it that way.
The foundation of generative AI for B2B marketing is your new coursework. Tell us about that.
So this has been my baby this year. I spent so much time recording it. We get into all of the foundational skills you need to understand to be able to leverage generative AI in your B2B marketing efforts. Although I actually have several people who are B2C and they're thrilled with it as well. So don't rule that out if you are B2C, but it is very much through a B2B lens in how it is taught. So we get into everything from understanding the technology, not from a technical, how does it work, but how do I use it? What do I need to know about it? All that foundational stuff. And then prompting skills, how to communicate effectively, how to use all of the different features of ChatGPT in a paid account. Now, a lot of that translates to other tools, but I am teaching through that paid ChatGPT lens only because everybody needs to be using the same thing to experiment with and test. Right. And then get into how to build things like GPTs and automations. So it really walks you, if you're a complete beginner, have never used it, it's starting where you need to be. If you're intermediate or a little bit high intermediate already, it's still really where you need to be, but it gets you to, really high intermediate, low advanced level.
Well, so congratulations on that. I think it's really cool. How can people sign up for it?
If you go to my website, just NicoleLeffer.com, and look at the navigation menu, there's a courses link on there, and you can get to it from there. And you can also get to it from my LinkedIn profile as well. So either one, and would love to have as many people as are interested. I've gotten phenomenal feedback. The first wave of the initial signups are at the end of it and starting to finish and posting their certificates, and the feedback has just been really amazing. So,
well, congratulations. I've been watching you from afar, which is why I wanted to have you on the show today, of course. And you are just a true inspiration for anyone that has a question about AI and leadership and marketing. So all those things packaged together. Thank you, Nicole, so much for the information that you've provided our listeners today and for your appearance on StrategyCast. And for those of you, if you want to go ahead and get a hold of me, you can email me at Lori@StrategyCast.com. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, which we use AI to produce, by the way, at StrategyCast.com as well. Thank you so much, Nicole, for your appearance on StrategyCast.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.